The PlayAction Podcast is fueled by Picasso's Pizza, where every night is pizza night.
The Buffalo Bills are the number 2 seed in the AFC heading into the playoffs. We look at how they got there.
Josh Allen put on an amazing performance in the regular season finale in Miami with a little bit of chaos Josh thrown in. We'll talk about where the Bills quarterback stands.
And now the Pittsburgh Steelers come to town. We preview the matchup with the 10-7 Steelers and what to expect on Sunday. The PlayAction Podcast starts now.
Welcome to a wildcard playoff edition of the PlayAction Podcast. We are coming to you from the Buffalo News mothership at a newly renovated studio here in the Larkin District, and I'm with Katherine Fitzgerald. And lo and behold, 6 weeks ago, the Bills had a 16% chance just to make the playoffs, and here we are today, and they are the number 2 seed heading into their wildcard round game Sunday against the Pittsburgh Steelers, the number 7 seed. Katherine, pretty amazing turnaround. Where do you think, how good is this situation for the Bills?
Yeah, not really what we thought we'd be talking about even just a few weeks ago, right? I mean, the number 2 seed, now they have that home field advantage for possibly the playoffs if anything happens to the Ravens. But even just to, from when we were talking about, is McDermott on the hot seat to now they're the number 2 seed, I think it's pretty remarkable, not only what they've done over this recent stretch, but how they've been able to do it. Some of the teams they've gone up against, and just finding different ways to win throughout.
Yeah, I mean, resilient is a cliche, but they certainly had a resilient victory, comeback win in Miami to clinch the AFC East title. I think the Bills are, this is the best Bills team of the last 4 years, in my opinion, from a talent standpoint. Okay. I think they are better on both lines of scrimmage than they have ever been the last 4 years. However, they have a knack for self-inflicted wounds, maybe more than in past years. So that is a worry, and they have won 5 in a row. Their consistency level is a bit of a concern going in, but I think on the offensive line they are better built to play playoff football because they can run the ball better, whereas they were more reliant on Josh Allen putting on a Superman cape the previous 3 years.
Yeah, and he still does that, of course,
right.
And likes to, obviously, but I think just kind of it was such an interesting game against the Dolphins, seeing who got involved. You have the Trent Sherfield touchdown, a Deontay Hardy punt return touchdown. Just guys who, have been in the mix throughout the year, but not always making the impact that maybe the Bills had anticipated when they brought them in, but finally had these huge moments to seal, the AFC East title, the number 2 seed. What a win that was, just kind of getting all those guys involved.
Yeah, and I mean, some of the pieces they have that they haven't had before. I mean, obviously they overhauled their offensive line. So Connor McGovern and Osiris Torrance at guard are an upgrade over what they've had the previous 4 playoff runs. And I think in the middle of their defense, they have Daquan Jones back. They don't have Matt Milano. That's they don't have Trey White. Those are 2 still huge pieces. But presuming Rasul Douglas will be fine if he's healthy and doesn't have any setbacks with the knee injury he suffered, they're pretty strong there. I just think the interior of their defense with Daquan Jones and the addition of Linval Joseph, which I think is going to be another role player who hadn't even played the last 2 games, but I think he's going to be he should be a big factor in the playoffs against good running teams. Again, they're just football is won in the trenches and a quarterback, and they're better in the trenches than they have been.
You mentioned that resiliency earlier. I think it's been really interesting hearing Rasul Douglas's perspective since he got here midway through the season. And, talking to him after the game, he got a question about, like, maybe there was some doubt at a certain point, and he cut off the question to be like, when was there doubt? He's someone who's always, since he got here, kind of immediately felt the belief this team had in themselves, even when they were 6-6 and whatnot. So I think just kind of hearing from, and he's not the only one, hearing from different guys on the team how, no matter what their record was, that they never really doubted it. I think that goes a long way in what they were able to put together.
No doubt.
Now, let's talk about Josh Allen for a bit. So much of what this team is going to do in the playoffs is going to be dependent on Josh. I thought it was interesting after this game against the Dolphins. He said, I felt like the ball was coming out of my hands the best all year, so that's a good thing. What did you make of his game and just kind of where they go from here?
Yeah, I mean, as so many people have said, it was the Josh Allen experience to the nth degree, right? I mean, at halftime of the Miami game, I was thinking, this is a bookend for the season. He was horrible. He cost them the game against the Jets in week 1. He was the reason they lost that game because he was bad. And just playing too fast, making turnovers, just not playing calm. And, at halftime, the Dolphins game, he makes a terrible play at the end. But the last pass, when there's only 11 seconds left, when you snap the ball pass has to go into the end zone. That's all there is to it. I mean, it's just a colossal gamble. The first interception was on Josh. I think the second interception was on Josh too. He kind of. And I agree with him that it was 4th and 2, and he rolled out, and at that point, just give them a shot. I agree with that, but, I felt he missed an open Dalton Kincaid. He didn't trust his first look, and we asked Joe Brady about that, and Joe Brady basically agreed, although, and I think this is fully legit, that Joe Brady said, it's easy to sit in the stands and say the guy was open. Maybe he didn't quite see it. He was a little worried, and Joe Brady said, if Josh doesn't feel good about throwing, I'm not going to ding him on that. But anyway, two bad possessions were killed. Bills can't afford that in the playoffs. Now, having said that, he's great. He's unbelievable. He was a force of nature, 359 yards. I mean, they easily could have won that game by 14 points. So it's the Josh Allen experience, and it's going to be a wild ride.
Yeah, it's always interesting hearing Joe Brady's perspective on him, too, since, he has such a critical role in what Josh does or doesn't do. I thought it was cool just hearing how he was talking more about how he talks through always making sure it's the right decision, whether or not it's a remarkable play, was this the right decision? And I think that'll be so key going into the playoffs of just, sometimes slowing down and making those decisions.
Yeah, and if they're going to make a playoff run, I mean, it's hard on the quarterback. It's going to be hard on Mason Rudolph for the Steelers on Sunday against the Bills defense. That's why there's only, 6, 7 truly elite players at the position on the planet at any one time, at any point in history. So, they need Josh to be great. You just think back on other playoff runs. Aaron Rodgers won 1 Super Bowl for the Packers in 2010, and he had an unbelievable 4-game run, the best 4-game run of his life. Hasn't had a run like that, in the playoffs since then. So it's kind of oversimplifying, but he doesn't have to be perfect. And one upside is that I truly believe they are less reliant on him being unbelievable because they are more two-dimensional in their offense this year.
Yeah, but how fun is it when we still see it? I mean, I think back to that 3rd and 13 run and just, you look at where he is at a certain point, how many guys are around him. You look at where he has to go, and it's ridiculous that he still makes that happen.
Yeah.
You know, even if they don't need him to do it every play, I think it's such a huge reminder for this team when he does stuff like this, when he's fired up afterwards, of that juice he still brings to the Bills.
And Joe Brady mentioned that you know, he loves seeing that the Josh that is expressive and having fun on the field. You know, he's a force of nature. He's one of, you know, the top 3 quarterbacks in the NFL, and we'll see. We'll see if he can he doesn't have to be perfect, but, you know, a 3-interception game, you know, if they play, you know, a first half like they played in Los Angeles, you know, when they had 3 turnovers and lose the turnover battle 3-0, they're not beating Pittsburgh or any playoff team if they do that. The Pittsburgh Steelers come to town Sunday as the number 7 seed in the AFC. The Steelers squeaked into the playoffs with a win over the Baltimore Ravens backups on Week 18 of the NFL regular season. Katherine, what do you think about these Steelers?
Yeah, I think it's a good matchup for the Bills. You know, the Steelers aren't particularly high scoring. They're 27th in points with about 17.9 points per game. So I think, you know, we'll talk about weather in a little bit, but I still think the way the Bills offense can score, this is a good Steelers defense, but I still think, I don't know, I think they match up well, the Bills against the Steelers.
Yeah, I think, you know, this is a game, really, if the Bills have to win this game. Josh Allen can't lose at home to Mason Rudolph in the first round of the playoffs. I think, you know, it's so it is a good matchup for the Bills, but it's still not an easy matchup. If the Bills play a clean game, I think they'll beat the Steelers. But the Steelers are a smash-mouth defensive team, and the more I look at the Steelers, they have talent. They have 2 number 1 wide receivers. They have 2 number 1 running backs. They have a pretty good offensive line. Now, their quarterback is Mason Rudolph, who is a backup, who has won the last 3 games for them. They're staying with him. So that's the big difference here, Josh Allen versus Mason Rudolph.
Yeah, I think too, you know, the Steelers don't necessarily turn it over quite often, so that's kind of where that could be a difference too. As you mentioned, if the Bills end up turning it over a lot, that can really hurt them here.
No, they don't turn the ball over. They have the 2nd fewest turnovers in the NFL. The Bills are near the top in giveaways, and they have the 6th fewest penalties. They don't beat themselves. They are a running team. They are built to shorten the game and take a game to the 4th quarter. So don't be surprised. I mean, unless the Bills get Mason Rudolph to turn the ball over, I mean, this shapes up. This easily could be a tight, tense game in the 4th quarter because those Steelers are built to play that way. Now, again, they have Mason Rudolph. They're also missing their best player. Their best overall player on the team is edge rusher T.J. Watt. He's out. So that's again, if the Bills can't beat them with Mason Rudolph and no T.J. Watt in the first round of the playoffs at home, it's as sad as it is to say, it's a failed season for the Bills. The Bills have to win this game. I don't see it being necessarily an easy game, though.
What do you make of the rest of the defense? You know, obviously T.J. Watt is such a star. They're without him.
They have a superstar at safety in Minkah Fitzpatrick, who has been hurt, didn't play against Baltimore on Sunday. He's back this week. Will he be 100%? If he's 100%, he's a guy, Josh Allen, you need to know where he is all the time. Stay away from that guy. I see them, they have a great defense. Without T.J. Watt, they still have a stout defensive line. So I think they're a different defense, but they shape up. They're kind of like a New England-style defense. Physical, tough. They blitz a lot. They have no T.J. Watt, but Alex Highsmith is an excellent edge defender. Casey Hayward is a great run-stuffing defensive lineman, kind of in the New England's Lawrence Guy mold, only better. They're a physical team. The Bills have to be ready to play physical, and like I said in the previous segment, the Bills are better built to play physical than they've ever been in this Josh Allen era.
Yeah, and it's just always impressive what Mike Tomlin's able to do with his teams. I mean, year after year, finding ways to get the most out of them.
Yeah, it's incredible. He is a great coach. It's amazing they made the playoffs given their quarterback situation. But they're a solid team. Their running backs, Najee Harris and Jalen Warren, are really good. Sean McDermott, was kind of comical a little bit. He mentioned that the Steelers out-physicaled them and dominated them in the preseason game. They did, though. He's not lying. I think some role players. Again, I see Shaq Lawson, Linval Joseph, Daquan Jones. Huge players in this game. They got to control the line of scrimmage. You get Mason Rudolph in 3rd and longs with, now we can talk a little bit about the weather forecast. It's supposed to be 25-mile-an-hour winds. The wind chill is, temperatures in the 20s, wind chill in the high teens. Not terrible. Josh Allen can throw in 25-mile-an-hour winds, probably better than Mason Rudolph. But the lake effect snow, too early to say. Could come, might not, who the heck knows. So it's going to be, it's shaping up as a grinded out, tense, bite your lip kind of game.
Yeah, we'll have all coverage from that game leading up to it as well, of course, on buffalonews.com and on this podcast. We'll be back no matter what happens next week. So make sure you're subscribing wherever you get your podcasts and keep listening.
Treat your team to the most flavorful pizza on game day at Picasso's Pizza. 4 great Western New York locations: Williamsville, West Seneca, Lancaster, and Blaisdell. Picasso's. We are Buffalo's Pizza since 1980. Order online today at picassospizza.net.